mere idea of covering the topic of EDC is controversial to many. Many feel, how can you have this information readily available? You don't know whose hands it's going to fall into. And I completely agree. This is something that we always as instructors must balance, and we must carefully weigh when putting it out there. For me, everything contained in this download is foundational. It's basic. Anything more advanced than this, and I would want to be only teaching it to people that I've personally vetted. But nevertheless, even putting this basic information down always creates stress in any conscientious instructor. So I put it down hoping and intending to have it in the hands of those lawful, just people who will use it to protect themselves. But by all means, there's no way of ensuring this or any other knowledge, no matter how covert you keep it. So save yourself the emails, guys. I fully sympathize and empathize with the concern. Going forward in your own arsenal, what I would say is this. Do be selective on who you train this with, because imparting this information on video is one thing, but really it is only as useful as the degree to which it is trained. And training depends ultimately on having at least one partner, if not a small tribe of individuals who trust you. From my experience, psychopaths rarely have reliable partners. They rarely make good training partners. They rarely survive in groups, and as such, they tend to go it alone, do it mostly solo, and rarely have the imperative feedback that you get from a group. So assuming you are the sane, just, lawful person for whom this is intended, we want to understand how to use these weapons so we can learn to see them sooner. We understand what their true strengths are and what their weaknesses and vulnerabilities are. We also want to have some familiarity around them should we ever decide to carry them or get custody of them through a disarm or in the scramble of a fight. No matter what the case may be, when you proceed with any of this information, please proceed cautiously. First, I cannot urge you enough to familiarize yourself with your local or national use of force standards. In every case, the moment you include a weapon, we are at minimum becoming assaultive, and in many cases we are immediately jumping to lethal force. So we need to be cautious about simply pulling out a knife or a pair of brass knuckles because somebody's swinging a punch at you, unless we can deeply substantiate that we feel we are in mortal danger. One acronym that I use to sort of push forward this point with my students is the acronym AIM. Ability, intention, and means. What's the ability of my potential aggressor or aggressors? Do they have the actual capacity to harm me? No matter how intimidated I might be, if the person is at a distance or up on a balcony, they're not close to me and they don't seem to have any projection weapon, then obviously they don't really have the ability to harm me. If somebody is much smaller than me, or if they're very feeble, then obviously their ability is drastically reduced. What is their intent? Have they openly expressed it? Or if not, how dependable are my inferences? Could I substantiate the aggression cues and all of the pre-fight indicators sufficiently in front of a judge to make an argument to say, I feared lethal repercussions, therefore I produced this weapon? And ultimately, what are their means? What are their opportunities? Somebody who says, I'm going to take that kitchen knife from the counter and jab it in your throat, has clearly expressed their intention. And they have the ability to kill you in that they have a knife and they have physical capacity to get it. But they don't yet have the means because they don't have that knife in their hands. The more criteria we have substantiating the use of force, the more justified I am in my response. So ideally, I'd like to have two, if not all three of these present. But they can be nebulous, they can be open to interpretation. And even if I have rock solid proof of all three, I still might not be guaranteed substantiated in my use of force. If somebody tries to kill me, and the minute I turn the tables on them, they drop their weapon, put their hands on their head and start begging for mercy, if I now proceed to attack them in any way, I'm attacking a defenseless person who has already surrendered. So we need to be extremely, extremely cautious. So familiarize yourself with use of force laws. Secondly, remember this. This is self-evident. Sometimes I can't believe that we need research to prove it, but we have the research to prove it. People will oftentimes look at statistics and research rather selectively. So if I am very pro-gun, I might say, look, this study shows clearly that people that have firearms in their homes are less likely to be robbed. And there are studies that show this. But many of those same studies also show that when people have firearms in their homes, they are more likely to be shot. whether by the aggressor who had a weapon but didn't intend to use it, or whether by their own firearm when they get disarmed. It should be no mystery to us that if there is no gun present in a fight, the likelihood of getting shot's pretty low, right? But the moment we introduce a gun, the likelihood goes up, and it doesn't always work in our favor. Similarly, if there's no knife, I'm probably not getting stabbed. If I produce a knife, all sorts of things can happen. I can be stabbing and slice off my fingers, it can flip back onto me, blades can break, or I can be disarmed, it can fall on the ground, it can be recovered and used against me. The moment I swing a punch, I am more likely in turn to be punched. So the introduction of any type of weapon immediately escalates the dynamic. And we want to be very wary of this. We want to be, if we look at the use of force as a set of stairs or a ladder, we want to be the absolute last person to go up those stairs and the very first person to take any opportunity we have to go down those stairs. So I will only introduce a weapon when I am absolutely certain odds are stacked against me, and that if I don't produce that advantage, I am in dire jeopardy of not surviving.